everyone. Thank you for coming out to the White House Vigil this year to commemorate the 103rd anniversary of the Armenian Genocide. My name is Madi Tikoyan, and I am the chair of the Washington, D.C. Armenian Youth Federation, ANI chapter. 103 years ago, the Ottoman Empire ordered for the systematic extermination of the Armenian race. Starting on April 24, 1915, able-bodied Armenian men were murdered, taken from their homes, and forced into hard labor. All the while, Armenian women, children, and elderly were sent out on death marches through the Syrian desert. Our people were deprived of food and water. They were raped, robbed, and murdered. This heinous act by the Ottoman Empire took the lives of over 1.5 million Armenians. Despite all the atrocities endured by the Armenian people, we prevailed. Our mere presence here today is proof that Turkey did indeed fail. For years, Turkey has tried to silence us. They tried to silence the world about the genocide they perpetrated through the use of political pressures on their allies. They tried to minimize the pain and suffering endured by the Armenian people by calling their actions a massacre instead of what they truly are, genocide. Turkey refused to be held accountable for their actions then, and they continue to do so today. The 2007 murder of Hrant Dink, the Turkish Armenian journalist who spoke out about the Armenian genocide, is proof of the ongoing genocide today. We did not hold Turkey accountable then, and we do not hold them accountable now. By not holding Turkey accountable for their actions, we are excusing their behavior. When will this cycle of genocide and denial end? As I look around, I see hope. I see Armenian people gathered around after 103 years of Turkey's attempts to destroy us. I see the strength and perseverance of the Armenian people, and this is just the beginning. Thank you all so much for being here today. Please welcome Inger David Bernasian, who will be offering the AYF community message to President Trump.
Thank you, Madi. Thank you. Thank you all for coming to tonight's vigil. We are gathered here to send a strong message of recognition and justice on the eve of the 103rd commemoration of the Armenian Genocide. The following is the Armenian Youth Federation's message to President Trump. Dear President Trump, we have gathered here in front of the White House to ask for your support as our president to recognize the Armenian genocide that occurred from 1915 through 1923, perpetrated by the Turkish government. We are Americans. Our fathers fought in World War I, World War II, the Korean War, Vietnam, and continue to serve in Iraq and Afghanistan. They fought to keep this country free and stood behind our constitutional principles and Bill of Rights. Last year, the President of Turkey visited Washington, D.C., and his government agents trampled our constitutional freedoms of speech and beating peaceful protesters just blocks from here at Sheridan Circle. Armenians were forced from our historic homeland and subjected to murderous attacks, and now a century later, we see innocent Kurds, Armenians, and Yazidis beaten on the streets of Washington, D.C., and our president does not have the courage to speak out and defend American values. Our mayor, Muriel Bowser, and the D.C. City Council condemn these attacks, and yet the President of the United States remains silent. Today is your day, Mr. President, to stand up to Mr. Erdogan's bullying and recognize the Armenian genocide of 1915. You speak out and help defend people in Syria, but you remain silent on recognizing the mass murder of over 2 million Armenian Christians in Turkey. You have the opportunity to be the first president of the 21st century to recognize the Armenian genocide. The last president to recognize the Armenian genocide was President Ronald Reagan. President Reagan and President Wilson stand out as symbols of freedom and democracy in the 20th century. You have the opportunity to follow that proud legacy by recognizing the Armenian genocide. We ask that you find the courage in your soul to stand up for the truth, to end U.S. complicity, and Turkey's cover-ups and denials to help build a safer and more tolerant world for future generations. Sincerely, the AYF chapter, on behalf of the Armenian American community. Thank you.
Bravo, David!
Thank you, Inga and David, for your message. We would just like to do a special thank you to the High Riders who came all the way from Toronto to be here today. We thank you guys for coming out. It means a lot to us and our community here. So, in addition to calling to our call on President Trump to honor our American values by reaffirming the Armenian Genocide, tonight we mark our nation's survival. Please join us in the honoring those who helped establish the first Armenian Republic from the ashes of genocide by singing the anthem of that victory, Sardarabad, accompanied by Jake Bornazian on saxophone. The words are provided on the handouts. Of the survival of our grandparents and great-grandparents have helped shape the very personal understanding of the effects of the Armenian Genocide on our families and communities. I now invite Inger Karina Tikoyan to share Mayram's story.
My great-grandfather, Setran Tikoyan, was a genocide survivor of them. He once told his story of survival. This is what he recalled to my aunt. My daughter, I was only 8 years old when the genocide was perpetrated on our people. I remember my extended family all lived in the Palu region of Western Armenia. When we sat down for dinner, there were 40 spoons scooping up food at our table. There were 4 brothers, their wives and children and grandchildren. When the genocide began, we were driven out of our homes. My brother and I started walking with our mom to an unknown destination. I can hardly remember how long we walked when I realized I was separated from my mother. I managed to sneak away from the masses by walking through an alley and into a small village. At one point, I met a man who proceeded to take me to his home. He gave me bread and said I could stay with them and work as a shepherd to herd his sheep. I stayed there as long as I could manage, but I was determined to leave. After several years, I ended up in an orphanage. After some time, the orphanage was visited by American missionaries who gathered the orphans and transported them to Aleppo, Syria. When I was there, I searched for my mother and younger brother Marsu, who was in my mother's arms when we separated. But regrettably, I had no luck. I will find her, he once said. My heart tells me I will find her. She appears in my dreams so often. I don't know where she is or whether she is alive, but I will never give up. One summer in Aleppo, Syria, my great-grandfather and great-aunt were sitting on our porch when their neighbor was returning home from church. She told them there was an elderly lady at church who said that she was from Palu, the same village as my grandfather. It turned out it was his long-lost cousin. She told him that his mother was still alive. He sat out the next day to find his mother. This is the story as he tells it. When I got on the road that morning, I rented a car and drove straight down to Arapuna, a small Kurdish village around 35 kilometers. Together we set off for Aslandashi via boat. We arrived in Aslandashi and went around town asking names of any elderly lady we came across. We asked if they knew anyone by the name of Mariam. Finally, one villager we came across said she knew a woman by the name of Mariam who lives in a tent not far from where we were. We followed his directions and came upon the tent. The magistrate advised me to stay outside the tent. He went in and heard him greeting a woman and asked her name. She answered Mariam. The magistrate then asked her where she was from. I'm a Kurd, she answered. He asked her for original ethnicity. She said sadly, why does it matter? After persisting with more questions, finally she gave in. I'm Armenian. A long time ago, I had a husband from Palu. His name was Tomas. Did you have any children? The magistrate asked her. Yes, I had 2 children. The oldest was Setrag, the youngest name was Marsu. I lost my Setrag during the genocide. I was never able to find him. My youngest grew ill and died when he was a teenager here with me. If you were to see your son Setrag, would you recognize him? The magistrate asked her. Yes. How? He had a mark on his wrist from an accident when he hurt his arm as a child. The magistrate finally called me to the tent. I was expecting to see my young mother as I remembered her 32 years ago, maybe somewhat aged, but I was shocked and heartbroken to see her handicapped and in such a dire situation. I went over to her, held her hand, and looked into her eyes. She didn't have to look at my wrist to recognize me. I kneeled down and scooped her into my arms, both of us weeping together, overjoyed on this unexpected and long-awaited reunion. The magistrate finally interjected and asked my mother, do you want to come with us to live with your son? Do you want to see your grandchildren? With all my heart, she answered.
Thank you, Inger Karina. Please welcome ANCA Projects Director Inger Teresa Yeremian, who will offer remarks in Armenian this evening.
Հայրենակիցներ, այսօր գտնվում ենք Սպիտակ տան առաջ նշելու 100-րդ տարելիցը հայոց ցեղասպանությունի, պահանջելով ճշմարիտ եւ արդար ճանաչում պատմական անցյալները։ Այստեղ ենք, որպեսզի նախագահ Թրամփը ընդունի մեր պահանջը, որ այս տարի, այս ապրիլ 24-ին, թող ինքը պատմական նախագահ լինի, ճշմարիտ ձևով ընդունելով եւ ներկայացնելով հայոց ցեղասպանությունը որպեսզի ցեղասպանություն ընդունելով որ այս իրավադարձությունները նաեւ դեր են ունեցել ամերիկյան պատմության մեջ ոչ թե միայն հայկական։ Պարոն Թրամփ, որպես մեր նախագահ, դուք պարտավոր եք ներկայացնելու մեր պահանջները, ոչ թե իրավունքներ տալ Էրդողանին, որ կաշկանդի ձեր ձայնը եւ ձեր խոսքերը։ Այս տարի մենք մեր պայքարը շարունակելու ենք ապրիլ 24-ին Sheridan Circle-ում, որտեղ դուք նախագահ Թրամփ լրեցիք, երբ որ Էրդողանը պահանջեց եւ հրամայեց իր թիկնապաներին հարձակվելու խաղաղ ցուցարարների վրա։ Այս տարի Միացյալ Նահանգների մեջ պատմական տարի լինի, ճանաչելով հայոց ցեղասպանությունը, ցույց տալով Էրդողանին, որ այս երկրի մեջ ինքը ուժ եւ իրավունքներ չունի, ոնց է լինի, սիրելիներ, ոնց է լինի այս սերունդը եւ ապագա սերունդները իրանց պայքարը չեն դադարելու, մինչեւ հասնեն մեր վերջնական պայքարի վերջնական դարձը, որը ազատ, անկախ եւ ծով միացավ Հայաստանն է հասնել։
Thank you, Ingerowi Teresa. Among the great heroes of the Armenian nation was General Antani, who was the leader of the Armenian self-defense group in Western Armenia. Later fought for the establishment of the First Republic of Armenia, and in addition to his leadership in the battle to establish the First Republic, please join us in singing Antranigi Kailerka, accompanied by Jake Bernazian on saxophone. Thank you, everyone. Offering our second snapshot of Armenian Genocide survival this evening is Tamar Dayan, who will share a portion of Haig Baronian's story in his own words.
I do not remember how many days our decimated caravan marched southward towards the Euphrates River. Day by day, the male contingent of the caravan got smaller and smaller. Under the pretext of not killing them if they would hand over liras and gold coins, men would be killed and men would be milked by the gendarmes of what little money they had. They would be killed anyway. Days wore on. We marched through mountain roads and valleys. Those who could not keep up were put out of their misery. Always bodies were found strewn by the wayside. The caravan was getting smaller each day. At one place, my little grandmother, like Jeremiah incarnate, loudly cursed the Turkish government for its inhumanity. Pointing to us children, she asked, "What is the fault of children to be subjected to such suffering?" It was too much for a gendarme to bear. He pulled his dagger and plunged it into my grandmother's back. The more he plunged his dagger, the more my beloved Nana asked for heaven's curses on him and his kind. Unable to silence her with repeated dagger thrusts, the gendarme mindfully pumped some bullets into her and ended her life. First my uncle, now my grandmother were left unmourned and unburied by the wayside. We moved on. Haig Baronian.
Thank you, Ingerowi Tamar. Please welcome Ingerowi Sunehan Paryan, who will be reciting the epic Armenian poem Liberty, Asadutun by Mikhail Nalbantian.
Ազատ աստված այն օրից, երբ հաճեցավ շունչ փչել, իմ հովանուց շնվածքին, կենթանություն պարգևել։ Ես անբարբար մի մանուկ, երկու ձեռքս պարզեցի, և իմ անձոր թևերով ազատություն գրկեցի։ Մինչ գիշերը անհանգիստ, օրորոցում կապկված, լալիս է անցացար, մորոս քունը խանգարած, խնդրում էի նրանից, բազուկներս արձակել, ես այն օրից ուգտեցի, ազատությունը սիրել։ Թոթով լեզվիս մինչ կապերը, արծատվեցան, փածվեցան, մինչ տնողքս ինձանից խնդացին ու փերկեցան, նախկին խոսքս որ ասեցի, չեր հայր կամ մայր կամ այլ ինչ, ազատություն դուրս թրավ, նախկին չեր հայր կամ մայր կամ այլ ինչ, ազատություն դուրս թրավ իմ մանկական բերանից, ազատություն ինձ կրկնեց ճակատագիրը վերևից, ազատության դուզինվոր կամից կրվել այսարից, օպ շոտ է ճանապարը, քեզ շատ փորձանք կսպասե, ազատության սիրողին, այս աշխարը խիստ նեղ է, ազատություն գոչեցի, թող որոտա իմ գլխին, փայլակ, կայծակ, հույր երկաթ, թող թավ տնե թշնամին, ես մինչ հիմա կախաղան, մինչև անարագ մախուսյուն, պիտի գորամ, պիտ կրկնեմ, անցացար ազատություն։
Please welcome Georgetown University student and AYF member, Nade Kuyum John, who will offer remarks in English this evening.
Thank you for coming, but not really, because when I thank you for coming out tonight, I don't mean I personally am happy you came. That's what people say at a wedding, or a birthday, or a funeral. That's what people say when they feel as though people came out and went a little out of their way in order to please them. And as far as I can see, there is no altar, no balloons, and no cemetery anywhere in sight. What I do see, though, is the White House, looking down at us like an ivory tower smirking in the moonlight. 100 years have passed since the official relationship between the First Republic of Armenia and the US was established. And as you can imagine, this building was here to witness it go down. Actually, it has been here to witness a lot of things go down. A lot of important things, for that matter. But it was in the doing part in which it seemed to falter. It turned a blind eye to the Washington Post, then located on 1335 East Street Northwest, when it published an article on April 10, 1883, documenting the Armenian massacres. It sat idle when about 20 years after that, the Washington Herald, also not too far from here, published an article on October 22, 1915, titled, Armenians in Turkey, Nearly Exterminated. In a delayed response in 1919, it gave the green light to Congress to incorporate the Near East relief, which was formally saving the starving Armenians without the formal leadership of the US government. And then in 1920, this here White House sat and watched the Treaty of Sèvres be replaced by the Treaty of Alexandropol. And just like that, by virtue of yet another injustice, it refused to speak up when our Wilsonian Armenia shrank to 1/10 of its rightful size. Later, it sat basking in these shining moonlights of complacency as the genocide of 1915 continued to live and breathe all throughout the 20th century. It remained quiet when the Kemalists burned down Smyrna, when programs were organized in the city of Istanbul in 1955, when Turkey continued to persecute its minorities and refused to represent them in public offices, and when Azeris took it upon themselves to pick up right where their Turkish brethren left off with the genocidal massacres of Sumgait, Baku, and Kirovabad in 1988. And I hate to break it to you, but looking at it right now, I see it doing the same damn thing. The Azeris killed yet another Armenian soldier just 10-some days ago, named Narek Harutyunyan. That's my first name. As the Turkish government refuses to allow the Armenians in Istanbul to elect their patriarch, and as Erdogan threatens the very existence of democracy and stability in the region as a whole, this White House remains idle. And you know what? I take that back. I do see a cemetery here. When I look at the White House, I see an ivory tower sitting atop the graves of well over 1.5 million of my ancestors. I see a building that continues to bow down to the least pro-American NATO so-called ally and put into question the moral leadership of the United States. But what else do we see today? Today, we have gathered here to light candles. And when we do, I ask that you do not only simply see lit candles on the ground, but you also see and feel the fire being lit atop each candle and within each heart of those standing in solidarity here and around the world. The genocide separated our people. But as we stand here under the shadow of the White House, participating in this symbolic candlelight vigil, remembering our ancestors and roots, we must be cognizant of the reality that Armenians around the world and in Armenia are united in their struggle for a brighter future. We are one people with one cause. And in addition to all the things this here White House has seen, be aware that it has started to realize that around late April of every year, a small group with big hearts gather in the depths of the night to commemorate something that no amount of time can erase. Shall the collective light of our candles burn today, one and the same, with the eternal flame of Zizer Nagapet? Shall our individual heartbeats pound together to the sweet melody of Mer Hayranik and ring in the halls of all those complicit in the perpetuation of the Armenian Genocide until we transform the banal denial of yesterday into the justice of tomorrow? For me to thank you for coming out tonight would be selfish. You aren't here for me. You're here for yourselves. You're here for our community here in DC, and you're here for the Armenian people.
Hip-hop artist Mark Touré first performed his epic song devoted to educating the world about the Armenian Genocide right here at our AYF White House Vigil in 2016. Since then, he has presented his song at countless schools and venues, including the Armenian Genocide observance at Times Square last year. Please join us in welcoming Mark to share his message of hope, peace, and justice.
Thank you. My name is Mark Touré. The song is about our story. "1915, a year that will live in infamy. Countless people murdered by hostile infantry. Children still in their infancy, killed instantly. Mass executions without any sympathy. The Ottoman Empire set fire to Armenia, killing more people than untreated leukemia. Their mission was the extinction of our religion, so they started nearby where my family was living. My great-grandma and her kids fled their town. Her husband and friends had already been gunned down. She escaped, but she lost her daughter along the way. She came to America, held her son, and prayed. Back home, the Turks deny the genocide happened. They say the countless dead are simply imagined. For 100 years, their regime holds control. And speaking out will end your life without parole. Put your hands up in the air. Yeah, tell Turkey you can't pull the world. You can't pull the world. Yeah. No more violence. No more heartache. Having faith that we can make that change. Yeah. So in the midst of World War II's confusion, when Hitler planned out his final solution, he said Jews are pollution, right for execution, and we can get rid of them. It's been proven after all. Who remembers the Armenians? A real quote, he spoke before murdering millions. Cause 1.5 million Armenians died and gave Hitler the motivation when he would arise. You see, one genocide will lead to another. People torn from others, neighbors killing neighbors, cities turn to craters. Poisonous vapors from shower gas chambers. Humanity seems prone to self-destruction. We can't think straight like we got a concussion. Why so much hate? This serves no real function. We gotta tolerate or face the repercussions. Hey, yeah, you can't fool the world. 103 years later, we're still here. Yeah, you can't fool us. No more. No more. Yeah. So come on, why keep the life prolonged? So much energy to cover up your wrongs. If you deny your past, how can you move on? Especially when the truth is coming in too strong. People's eyes are opening, looking for the light. A new dawn is rising, ending the long night. You can clutch your feeble eye and try to fight, but the world is realized you can't deny what's right. Cause we're all the same, despite colors and creeds. Stop evil where it starts, or it spreads like weeds. From Rwanda, Bosnia, Darfur, and Ukraine, to Cambodia and Nanking, we all feel your pain. Don't be content inside to let it slide. It's crimes like this that prevent our strides. And all the breaks in Turkey, time to rectify. Let's heal 1915 and our genocide. You can't fool the world. 103 years later, we are still here. Yeah. No more violence. No more pain, no more heartache. Yeah. Now real quick, let's end it like this. When I say love can rule the world, y'all say love can rule the world. Love can rule the world.
Love can rule the world.
Love can rule the world.
Love can rule the world.
Thank you guys. I'm Mark Ray.
Offering our third snapshot of the Armenian Genocide survival this evening is Lara Keshishan, who will share a portion of Edward Rokubian's story in his own words.
We walked for many days, occasionally running, across small lakes and rivers. After a while, we saw corpses on the shores of these lakes. Then we began seeing them along the path, twisted corpses, blackened by the sun and bloated. Their stench was horrible. Vultures circled the skies above us, waiting for their evening meal. At one point, we came upon a small hole in the ground. It was a little deeper than the average height, and 25 to 30 people could easily fit in it. We lowered ourselves down into it. There was no water in it, but the bottom was muddy. We began sinking in the mud. Some of the women made tiers of their shirts filled with the mud and suckled on them like children. We were there for about half an hour. If we hadn't been forced out, it would have been our best grave. Many days later, we reached the Euphrates River, and despite the hundreds of bodies floating in it, we drank from it. We quenched our thirst for the first time since our departure. They put us on small boats, and we crossed to the other side. From there, we walked all the way to the Russelin of a cavern of nearly 10,000 people. There were now only some 100 of us. My aunt, my sisters, my brothers had all died or disappeared. Only my mother and I were left. We decided to hide and take refuge with some Arab nomads. My mother died there under their tents. They did not treat me well. They kept me hungry and beat me often, and they branded me as their own.
Please help us welcome a first-time presenter at our White House Vigil, Engerui Victoria Penenyan, who will recite a poem, Hayeren, by Hachi Tashtens.
Hayeren, Hachi Tashtens. Merchurch lezunen noruhin. Merchurch kosin aroren. Get kosin yahpairim hayeren. Kurchetank aisahel lapumin. Turchetank mel lezunaveren. Get kosin yahpairim hayeren. Մենք ունենք մեծ հսկո մասի սար, այդ սար ուախորդ հարվեն, անվերջ կողոսի այրեն, զավագը հայգական թբոց դար, եկ կրեկ մսոպյան դարրով, եկ կոստինք մերանուշ պարվով, մեզ սրվեց պազուկ մանորեն, թե գուզես սերուտները մեզները մենք հայից, կենք այս օդար աշխարի ծուտլերուն եծիրինք մեր լեջում չեն որեն, Varing Hayore.
We are honored to have with us this evening the 8th graders from the Ferayan Armenian School in Southern California who arrived a couple hours ago. And immediately hopped on the bus to join us for the vigil. Please join me in welcoming them as they perform April 24, To Kunchen Shepur. And now we invite Inger Seva Kasarjan to recite. Sebu. I'm sorry, Sebu.
Hey, Sebu.
Սպանեցին, հաչ հանեցին, սակայն մնացել հայությունն, արամ կրդին մենք հարություն և ոչ իբրև մի նոր Հիսուս, այլ հայի պես, իմ ժողովուրդ խնամենի, ինչպես գտնել չեր ստեղծված, բարն այ նոր ընալ լինի, քեզ ճշտորեն անվանելու, թու բաղմության մուտ արեցված, թու մակմության բարդ անելու, ձերն ու ձեր մնալի, քեզ որտեղից այն բանալի, որով կյանքի թուրնեցված է այն թարավոր, հաստուրը որ փակվել է միշտ, շկայացել, քոլուսավոր, ճակտից է, Չարերի վեր վարում են մեզ, այրում են մեզ, թարցնում մողկիր, հնոցի մեջ ու ճարության, քորայի մեջ կեն ու ողիր, ու դակ մողկիրին անգամ թրջում, սակայն ոգի մեր հայության, ելք է մի շկայացել, թե ճարում նոր արում,
Please welcome Reverend Sarkis Aftavokian, who will honor offer remarks and a closing prayer in honor of the sainted martyrs of the Armenian Genocide.
Ցեղասպանության նահատակներու հիշադակի ոգևոճման մեկ ցերնարկն է այսօր, որ հավաքված ենք այստեղ եւ աշխարհին ուզենք ցույց տալ, որ մենք չենք մոռացած մեր սրբազան զոհերը եւ մենք պետք է հարգենք իրենց հիշադակը Հավիդյանս Հավիդենից ամեն։ Պիտի պայքարենք մինչեւ որ աշխարհի բոլոր պետությունները ընդունին եւ ճանչնան ցեղասպանությունը եւ իրենց ցույց տան, որ ցեղասպանությունը երբ որ կուրանան կնշանակե թուր կփանան նոր ցեղասպանություններու եւ ադիգա փաստե 20-րդ տարուն նույնիսկ 21-րդ տարուն այսօր արդեն դեղի կունենան նոր ցեղասպանություններ հայ ժողովուրդը չէ մոռացած իր զոհերը եւ այսօրվան մեր հավաքը այդ ցերնարկներեն մեկն է քանի որ առաջ Capital Hill էինք այսօր այստեղ Սվիդակ դանարչև ենք ցույց տալու համայն աշխարհին, որ մենք կդոնենք մեր սրբազան զոհերու հիշադակը։ Վաղը եկեղեցվո մեջ ավարտ Սուրբան Մահբադարակի պիտի հառաջանանք դեպի Խաչքար եւ այնտեղ հատուկ արարողություն ունենանք մեր զոհերու հիշադակին։ Իսկ երեքշաբթի օր Շերիդան շրջանակի վրա սրբելի մեջ պիտի հավաքվենք դարձյալ փողոքի ցույցի համար, որ մեր հետ պիտի անցնենք դեպի հայկական տեսփանատուն եւ այնտեղի Խաչքարին արչեւ ունենանք նաեւ դարձյալ հատուկ արարողություն։ Եվ ասիկա ամեն տարի պիտի գրկնենք, որպեսզի ցույց տանք ամբողջ աշխարհին, որ մենք դեր կգանքնենք մեր զոհերուն։ Դժբախտաբար արևմտյան մեծ պետություններ, որոնք ունին իրենց արխիվներում մեջ շատ ավելի մեծ փաստաթուղթեր, շատ ավելի մեծ փաստեր մեր ցեղասպանության մասին, բայց եւ այնպես մինչեւ այսօր դակավին գլրեն։ Շատ ամոթ պիտի լա, երբ այն օրը, որ ցեղասպան թուրքը ինքը ճանչնա ցեղասպանությունը եւ դակավին ուրիշ երկիրներ չեն ընդունած ցեղասպանությունը։ Իմ մաղթանքս է, որ հարադևենք մեր պայքարին մեջ, մինչեւ որ դիրանանք մեր իրավունքներում, ըլլա ադիկա փարոյական եւ կամ ըլլա նյութական։ Աղոթենք Պահպանյա Քրիստոս Աստված մեր, զասկս հայոց, համախնդյալ ժողովուրդս, ընթովանյա սուրբ և պատվական խաչիկոյի խաղաղության, փրկյա ազատյա երևելի և հաներևույթ թշնամվույն, արժանավորյա քողության փառավորել, հսկեց ընթոր և ընթողույթ սրբով, այժմ և միշտ և ավիդյան, Սավիդենից ամեն, օրնյալ դեր մեր Իսուս Քրիստոս, ամեն։
Amen.
քոյ արքայություն, երզորություն եւ քար, Հավիդյանս ամեն, ձեր բոլորին բարձր կդար, ձեզ կսպասենք վաղը եկեղեցին եւ երեքշաբթի օր ամենակարևորը փողոքի ցույցին։ Հաջողություն ձեզի, բարի գիշեր բոլորին։
Thank you for joining us for the annual White House Vigil. Please join us on Tuesday for the protest for justice at the Turkish ambassador's residence at 4:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. at Sheridan Circle. Buses will be leaving from Subhach Church at 4 p.m. In addition, we would like to take a group shot of everyone who came out to the vigil tonight. If you guys could please line up behind the scouts, it would be very appreciated. Thank you.
Now let's have a clear shot of the White House.
Yes. So everyone on this side, please, so that we can take a photo.
Attention, this one.
Okay,